one of the most bizarre matches and periods in a match I've ever seen. That 7-minute window between the 72nd and 77th minute at Old Trafford was...
Right.
I've never seen anything like that happen on the football pitch. A quick breakdown. Between those minutes, there was a handball by a Fulham player who got sent off. But before he got sent off, the manager got sent off during the VAR check. Right. And then after the decision was given, another player got sent off. So in a 1-minute period, Fulham received three red cards. Yeah. And then in the 3-4 minutes after that, they conceded two goals. And at that point, they were out of the FA Cup.
Yeah, it was crazy. And I believe if Fulham, if those key members of the squad, the manager and those two players had sort of kept their head, I believe Fulham would have gotten a result out of that game.
Yo, what's up, people? Welcome to yet another episode of Sangalooo featuring your usual suspects. Flopsy in the house, to my right hand side, Tele, as usual. It's been a very, very busy week in the world of sports. We saw it all, from combat sports to motorsports to football to basketball,
everything
league
happened,
football,
man,
cup
everything.
football. We saw it all. And where I want to start is what was one of the most bizarre matches and periods in a match I've ever seen. That 7-minute window between the 72nd and 77th minute at Old Trafford was...
Right.
I've never seen anything like that happen on the football pitch. A quick breakdown. Between those minutes, there was a handball by a Fulham player who got sent off. But before he got sent off, the manager got sent off during the VAR check. Right. And then after the decision was given, another player got sent off. So in a 1-minute period, Fulham received three red cards.
Yeah.
And then in the 3-4 minutes after that, they conceded two goals. And at that point, they were out of the FA Cup.
Yeah, it was crazy. And I believe if Fulham, if those key members of the squad, the manager and those two players had sort of kept their head, I believe Fulham would have gotten a result out of that game. Because, to be honest with you, they played Manchester United. Marco Silva seemed to have an answer for everything Manchester United brought to the park that day, right? Yesterday. They played better throughout. They had played better throughout the game. First half, they were better. Second half, up until that point, they were better. But it was at the point where Manchester United had started to string some passes together and put some dangerous attacks together. So if Marco Silva and Mitrovic had kept their heads, even if Willian got that red card, right, and Manchester United scored, I believe Fulham might have been able to get a result out of that game because they seem to be up. They seem to be up for the challenge.
So yeah, that was a very embarrassing way to go out of the cup by Fulham, in they'll be sat there. Those three of them would have been sat in the changing room watching the match, just looking at each other like, how does the manager get angry at Mitrovic for his own record when he literally did the same thing?
Right?
So
how do you handle it?
So they just sat there in the dressing room, sweating, look at each other like, damn. But yeah, Manchester United progressed in yet another cup competition. They're yet to be eliminated from any cup competition this season. And yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah, it's impressive, but I feel like it's
starting to show.
It's starting to show because how poor they looked yesterday. It was just a case of the sheer number of games they've played. I mean, the commentators in the game said Manchester United have played 13 games, more than that Fulham side this season. So far, they would play more than that Fulham side at the end of the season. I mean, they would have played more, when the season comes to a close. So it just is the sheer number of games. It's good to be very competitive on as many fronts as you can, but these things tell. And like you said, before we came on air, the international break has come at a very good time. So the players can go back, just rest a little and, come back refreshed.
So yeah, we'll see how Manchester United look on the other end of the international break, the business end of the season, if they can get things back on track. But still in England, but we're deviating from cup football now into league football, and it's the same old story for Arsenal. They've gotten yet another big result, a convincing result. It looked pretty routine. Their star players are still looking good. There were a few injuries in the back line. Saliba didn't play and he was replaced by Rob Holding. Ben White came in for Tomiyasu and they still got the results.
Yeah, they still got the result. And before the match, we spoke about this Crystal Palace side and what they might bring to the park, saying they will be having a new manager in the dugout, after Patrick Vieira was sacked. And they looked like a different side, I promise you. They looked more intense with their counter-attack. They played with more intention with their attacking play, and But Arsenal just had a little bit too much. Starboy Saka now is, he's reached double figures in goals and assists. The only player in the league at the moment.
12 goals, 10 assists.
That is massive.
He had
Martinelli as well,
games,
doing the madness.
13 league goals.
And I'll give massive kudos to Arsenal that the defensive injuries that they had did not show too much.
Yeah.
They looked shaky at times, but their attack and their midfield had more than enough. And Partey as well played excellently. And yeah, Saka, you can't hold Saka back. I mean, 18 points at the end of the game week in FPL, 2 goals, 1 assist. Massive player.
Yep. Yeah, PFA nominee for sure.
Most definitely.
We're running out of words to describe Bukayo Saka at the moment. But speaking of Crystal Palace and teams in the relegation zone, just wanted to take a look down there and see what the weather is like on that side of the table. And it's hectic down there. As
it's crazy. It's as bad as at least, or let me say, up to 8 teams at this point, as we're speaking, up to 8 teams can get relegated.
So to give you that in the statistics, between the 12th and the 20th position, only 4 points separate these teams.
That's crazy.
And that's
crazy. And that's something that sort of, you know these things, but when you put some things into consideration, you start to see, wow, this is crazy. When Patrick Vieira was sacked, I was of the opinion that this team was doing well, right? They're currently 12th. That's a very good position in the middle of the table. They're sitting 12th. So why are they sacking Patrick Vieira? But now look at it. He's just, that Crystal Palace side are just 4 points away from relegation places. And they played a few more games more than some of the teams that are below them. If those teams win those outstanding games, they are right there in the thick of things, in the relegation battle. So it is crazy. This is very, very tight in the Premier League.
So currently, the teams that are sat at the bottom are West Ham, Bournemouth, and Southampton, with 1 point separating them, of course. Southampton have played 28 games and they're sat at the bottom. I think they are getting relegated.
They're a shoe-in, but their manager seems to have injected some confidence into them. They've been playing better since he came on.
Yeah, Walker's looked a bit good. Shea Adams looked alright.
They played very well. Their last 2 games, they were able to get good results. Both were draws. I think they drew against Tottenham yesterday, and they had a good result before that Tottenham game. And these are big sides, right, that they played against, that they got good results. So I will not count them out just yet. This is the Premier League and this is football generally. Anything can happen. When they face the sides that are in and around the relegation battle with them, having gained confidence against bigger sides, you might see them, get important results, get some wins, get some, some very important draws, and they just might not get relegated at the end of the day.
A few other teams are in and around them, which are quite surprising to me. Everton sits 15th place in the table, having played 28 matches so far. And so if the teams below them play their games, then Everton will be in relegation zone. And that is crazy. That will be one of the biggest teams we've seen go down in a while. They came close last season with Frank Lampard, and now it's looking like it could be Everton's time. Sean Dyche coming in, we thought the new manager bounce could help them out, but they're still with 1 win in their last 5 games, and it's not looking great for Everton at the moment.
Yeah, it's not looking great for Everton.
This is the team that Carlo Ancelotti, but not last season, and Dominic Calvert-Lewin flying, and James Rodriguez, Doucouré.
So that's another thing, right? With Everton, they've had a situation where the playbook that worked for Chelsea, right? The manager swap, once the manager is not doing well, you come for his head. It worked for Chelsea, but it did not work for Everton, right? And I remember just before Frank Lampard was sacked, one of the owners came out and said, or the chairman, I think, came out and said, these managers that were sacked were not our decision, right? It was the fans that clamored for them, that asked for them to be sacked. And we took your opinion on board. We sacked these managers, and now you're blaming us for how badly the team is performing. So the ownership of the club are at a very, very, very interesting position at this point in time. The fans are clamoring for them to leave, asking for a change of ownership. At this point,
that's the question you have to ask.
It's crazy. And we're seeing another big team, just very quickly, another big team that you wouldn't expect to be in this relegation battle in West Ham. And Leicester are
17th, West Ham are 18th.
It's crazy.
These are teams that should, in seasons not too far ago, they would have been challenging for Europa League spots.
Sure.
Leicester, we asked questions about whether Leicester are taking Arsenal's place in the top 6. Like not too long ago, and
Very
now
true.
West Ham spent all that money recently, and they're at the bottom of the table. It's like they've swapped fates with the Brentfords and
the
Newcastles
Bournemouths.
and the yeah,
We are
it's,
Bournemouth are still there.
it's interesting to see. Who do you think is going down? Who do you think is more likely to go down?
To be
Everton or
very,
West Ham?
very honest with you, I can't say if either one of them will go down. So with Everton and West Ham, these are teams that have pedigree. These are teams that have Premier League pedigree, and
I think it's running out for Everton. Like you can't ride on that juice. I think Everton. I mean, I've actually seen that they're one of the few teams that have never been relegated. So I feel the time might just have come.
be
like,
now, right?
That the saying you're not too big to go down my ring truer than ever now, because you look at Everton and you think how are they winning matches? Like there's no like who is really performing in the Everton side at the moment. The Marigray gets the odd goal. Calvert-Lewin injuries are really derailed him. They had Dele Alli who's now gone. Iwobi's kind of tailed off, and so it's like how are Everton going to get over the line? They're not scoring that many goals from set pieces. Maybe from now on, that might fix the defense, and a couple draws might be enough, but Everton, there's nothing really inspiring about Everton at the moment.
To be very honest, it's not looking good for any of the sides that are from 12 down to 20. It's not looking good.
So
for
it might
any
actually
one of
just boil down to the fixtures and who these teams have next. And Everton, that's another thing about Everton. In their next two games, they play Tottenham and United. So they can reach the 30th game mark in this same position, having picked up 0 points from their next two games as well. It's not looking good for Everton.
Nah, it's not.
But speaking on Tottenham, really quickly, because we discussed Tottenham and their top four hopes in the last episode. They have dropped some more points. So the top four battle is actually just as...
It's just as interesting, yes.
We're not really sure what's happening there. And with United having dropped points in their last two league games, it's looking like maybe they're trying to get involved in that conversation as well. So that's definitely something that we're going to be keeping an eye on as we progress.
In my opinion, I feel like out of the few sides that are battling for the top four, I believe Manchester United are still the most comfortable at the moment. They played just 26. They have 2 games in hand over Tottenham, the closest competitors, and then Newcastle as well have 26 points. I've played 26 rather and have 47 points. But I believe Manchester United have. They sort of like separated themselves from the rest of the pack in terms of who will make it into the top 4. I believe that 4th spot is the contentious position now.
I think we're getting to a very important part of the season for United because, like we said, the results they've gotten of late, so there's the draw against Southampton, there's the Liverpool result, did well against Betis, one of the games, and then this Fulham game, the way they look kind of shaky. So United do look leggy, and the fact that they didn't come out of any of these competitions, I don't know how well that's going to do for them in terms of that top 4 bid, because these Thursday night games before the weekend games, I feel like that's what we saw that hangover already in that game. Perhaps the international break might make a difference, but the way, like United, they're getting over the line, but it's starting to look a little leggy. Like it's like Rashford. That's really crawl over the line.
That's really all it takes, right? You just need to just have a little bit extra to just go over the line, right? We've always known that this was not the Manchester United. We never expected that this Manchester United side would be in this position at this point in the season. That's fact. We do not.
Top 3?
Yes, we never
come to that conclusion.
No, I mean at the start of the season, what were the expectations at the start of the season?
But it's looked likely for a very long time.
Doesn't matter, but it is the expectation at the start of the season that you judge the manager by at the end of the season, right? So this was not.
That's not. I mean, no, that's exactly how. Ideally, that's what should happen. But we know that if we get to if now Arsenal go on to bottle league and finish 3rd, are we going to tell them, like, we can give Arteta a nice little pat on the back, it was cute, but really, he fumbled.
The truth is
so anything other than making the top 4, so United are still in pole position, but anything other than making the top 4, when you're in these positions, like, it's not about how you got there now, it's about getting over the line. And of course, you will still back United get over the line, but I think we should keep an eye on it because the United that were rolling through everybody, they were just winning. Now it's looking like they're winning games, but it's looking like it's starting to fade. So how many games does Casemiro still miss in the league? Two more games, and we know how important he's been to the side. So yeah, I think. I mean, it's also a case of period in the season for Manchester United.
I mean, it's a case of also that lack of squad depth, and you will not blame Ten Hag.
Yeah, it's not about blaming Ten Hag. It's about just keep an eye on it. But moving on, I think that's a pretty good summary of what's going on in England. But as we said, around the world of football, there's a lot going on. And the La Liga might have been wrapped up yesterday.
Yes, Barcelona, ended up going 12 points ahead of their nearest rivals, Real Madrid. And it was interesting because Real Madrid, this was an El Clasico game in the La Liga. You'd have expected that Real Madrid would turn up in this game. They ended up not scoring one goal.
I mean,
The one goal they scored was an own goal.
Yeah.
So it was, I don't understand what's going on with Real Madrid.
Yeah, Madrid, I guess this is what we've seen of Madrid pretty consistently, to be honest. They've never really hacked the league. It's like Barcelona just know how to be better in the league. And even during the times when Real Madrid were the best team in the world, like you'd find Barcelona winning the league with teams that aren't close to the teams. Madrid, they are geared towards the Champions League. We've seen that recently with the result against Liverpool compared to this one. And yeah, it's interesting to see. I'm happy for Barcelona, happy for Xavi, and at this point, surely they shall go.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they've been knocked out of the Europa League by Manchester United. They're not, I don't know about, they don't have too many engagements, besides the La Liga. So
They've won the cup already.
They've won the cup already. So they can really focus on La Liga and, just take it home.
Yeah, that is the big news in Spain. Moving on to Italy, it is business as usual. Like I said, the usual suspects are here. The usual suspects were on the score sheet.
Doing it, right?
In Napoli, our fellow Nigerian brother with another 2 goals. So he's breaking some records. He's 23 goals in Serie A. It's a record for a Nigerian player. It's one of the highest tallies that we've seen in Serie A at this point in the season. So he's on track to breaking all sorts of records. And as well as him, the other player that I mentioned,
Kvaratskhelia.
Sydney, with another goal and yet another assist. Napoli just keep flying. It's like the outside situation. It's business as usual. They put 4 goals past the opponents, and
they call Kvaratskhelia Maradona. He's playing excellently, and at the end, it's like we've run out of superlatives for these guys, right? They're doing massive things in the league this season, and they're doing well in the Champions League too. I really do want to see them in the finals of the Champions League.
They have a decent route to the final.
I really want to see them in the finals of the Champions League, and that will be a true test, right, of their character, right?
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, you can say, okay, it's the Serie A, how much competition do you really have in the Serie A? Yeah. But in Europe, they've done well so far. Let's see if they make it into the finals, and let's see how well they'll do in the finals.
That would be big. Napoli winning the Champions League, they're definitely dark horses, and at this point in tournament, they're probably my favorite team left in tournaments. I'd love to see Victor Osimhen win the Champions League.
Most definitely.
I've seen Nigerian lift the Champions League since Kano in 98 or whatever. So this is a very big moment. We should all get on board with this. We need these W's.
True.
All right, moving on from that. In Germany, there was another very big result at the top of the table. Bayern Leverkusen, managed by Xabi Alonso, former Bayern Munich player, beats Bayern Munich 2-0. 2-1 actually. And that result for Bayern Leverkusen sees Dortmund go a point clear at the top of the Bundesliga after beating Cologne by a whopping 6-1. Goals from Marco Reus, 2 goals from Marco Reus, 2 goals from Sebastian Haller, Tony Malen, and Guerrero on the score sheet.
Of course, personally, I'm just happy for Sebastian Haller. The struggle that he's had coming up until this point. The issue he had with, with cancer and Dortmund. Bayern Munich. Let me even just talk about Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich have had a not so great season so far, right? They've not been the team that ran away with the league 10 times in a row. 9 times. 9 times in 10 seasons. So it's a different Bayern Munich this season. And it's good to see the competition, right? Just picking up the slack in their absence. And of course, Xabi Alonso, I don't know what it was with him. It's that kind of thing where you played for one of the biggest sides in one, then you come as a manager and then you beat them. I'm sure that sleeping that night his sleep would have been a very different sleep.
Yeah, very big night for Xabi Alonso. He could be the next one up in terms of these Spanish midfielders who go on to be a great manager.
Yeah.
Probably he could be next top manager in the game. But yeah, that's a roundup on pretty much everything important that happened in the world of football. And we're going to move on to the other sports that we cover here. And there was the second race of the Formula 1 season this weekend in Jeddah. Red Bull once again with the crown, but that's not really where the story was. The story revolved around Aston Martin, the team that we've been paying attention to this season.
The Aston Martin team that we peeped to do very well this season, they continue their rich vein of form. And there was a controversial situation where Fernando Alonso was docked points for violating a penalty very early on. And it was a very, very interesting situation, and that boiled down to the interpretation of the rule, right? They shouldn't work on your car when nobody should work on a car when you're serving a penalty. But they were not actually working on the car. An engineer's hand was on the car and a jack was under the car. And it was interpreted as, you shouldn't even be touching the car at all. But thankfully for Aston Martin and for Fernando Alonso, the rule was, they looked at it again and they decided, you know what, let's not penalize you for that, right? So the rule was reinterpreted. And that meant that Fernando Alonso got his 100th podium ever in his career. That is big. He's a legend of the sport. And his pedigree goes, it speaks for itself. Massive points for
multiple winner, like
100 podiums. Not many Formula One race drivers can say they have that in their in their records. So that's big for Fernando Alonso and big for Aston Martin. They're currently sitting pretty, at the top end of the, of the Drivers' Championship and of the Constructors' Cup as well. So yeah, it's looking good. Just 2 races in, but it looks like they'll continue like this, for the end of the season.
Just 2 races in, and once again, the Red Bull is looking phenomenal.
Crazy.
Winning the 3rd title. It wasn't Max Verstappen in 1st position this time, but it was Sergio Perez.
It was Checo Perez. But what was most interesting is the fact that Max Verstappen started the race P15 and he ended up finishing P2. So that's big. A 1-2 for Red Bull. I mean, you just can't stop them at the moment.
Guys over at Mercedes, it's still not looking as great for them. There's a lot of drama there, complaints about the car. Toto Wolff saying maybe we need to equip Hamilton with a better car if he's going to win that 8th title. It's not looking good for Mercedes.
Yeah, it's not looking good for Mercedes, and to sort of pour sand in their gari, as we say over here. With Fernando Alonso's point deduction this weekend, it meant that George Russell got a rare podium for himself. And with the rule, being reinterpreted. So with the rule being reinterpreted and the podium being reinstated for Alonso, somebody had to lose out, and that was George Russell. Very unfortunate for Mercedes at the moment, but it's good that there's, that it's not a complete capitulation, right? They're still in and around the top 4, top 5, and they can do better for sure.
All right, that is a wrap up on the 2nd Formula One race of the season. We'll keep you posted as the season progresses. And on to the other sport that we follow this weekend. Obviously, as Nigerians, we watched the Kamaru Usman up against Leon Edwards fight, the 3rd version of the trilogy, and it didn't go in our favor, man.
I feel like it's a case of, as with every other fighter, every other elite fighter, once somebody comes up and knows how to beat you, that's all, right? It looks like Leon Edwards knows how to beat Kamaru Usman. He has his cheat code, and it was unfortunate for Kamaru Usman, and unfortunate for his Nigerian support. But it was a close fight. He did give a good account of himself, but the referees and the judges thought Leon Edwards had a lot more in him than.
In your opinion, do you think that was a fair result from the fight?
Yeah, it was a fair result. I mean, Leon Edwards fought very, very well. I saw Kamaru Usman's build up into the fight. He didn't do that much differently from what you'd have expected him to do. Leon Edwards just had a lot more than he did.
So yeah, commiserations to our champion, Kamaru Usman. We hope he'll be back soon. He's in the later stage of his career, but he does have the heart of a champion, and if he says he will come back, we'll be back into it.
Yeah, he will be, but it's just unfortunate for Nigerian fighters across board. Anthony Joshua has fallen off. Kamaru Usman, we're witnessing his fall off, and I'm worried for Israel Adesanya. Pereira has beaten him once. They're going to fight again in April.
It's a very pivotal fight. Back-to-back L's will not be impressive. All right, and that's an episode. Thanks for rocking with us once again as we try to bring the world of a whole week worth of incredible sports moments and condense it into 15 minutes for you. We hope you appreciated it.
I'm sure we did more than 15 minutes, but it is what it is. There's so much to discuss in the world of sports generally, and unfortunately, nobody won our airtime giveaway for the scores prediction that we had over the weekend. Of course, there will come again, there will come again another, prediction game for you guys, at the end of the week. Of course, look out for the AFCON qualifiers. Senegal will be playing, Nigeria as well will be playing. Usman will, show up for Nigeria. And something that caught my eye, right? The FA in Nigeria has told Posero that they are limiting the number of players playing abroad that he can call into the squad. They said he can only bring 20 players into the camp, that all the other players have to come from Nigerian leagues. I do not believe that that's the best way, to go about things like that. We have the Chan Eagles where you can test out, home-based players. We have, the Chan competitions where you can the Waffle competitions as well, where you can test out home-based players. Not in big ticket, events like the AFCON qualifiers and the AFCON itself. So that's a very, very bad move in my opinion by the FA. If you want to do more for the local leagues, manage the league better. Increase the competition, make it better generally in the league, and then you can start to see players really prove themselves in the league, and then the manager of the national side can include them. But placing a limit on the number of players that you can call up, I mean, I don't think it's the best move moving forward. But of course, it is what it is. Nigeria will always be, Nigeria.
So yeah, that's an episode. Let us know your thoughts on what was just discussed there, on whether you think there should be a quota on how many local players versus international players should represent the Super Eagles. That might be a conversation we'll delve into deeper as the weeks progress.
Yep.
But yes, that's an episode. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. Let us know your thoughts on the season so far. It's the international break, which isn't as interesting, so maybe we'll set up some rep your clubs or some stuff like that. Let us know in the comment section if you're trying to come on set. So anything else? Any closing thoughts?
That's it for me. I just hope. I mean, massive shout outs to Manchester United. I hope they come back from the international break well rested. I mean, it's not likely. I mean, I'm sure that nonsense Southgate will probably go and use Rashford again and run him into the ground in unnecessary games, Italy and Ukraine. But yeah, let's see how it pans out. I mean, I've seen Maguire was called up as well. I don't know why he's calling him up, but that's his prerogative.
All right, that's an episode. Peace and love.